Holy smokes, everyone. I'm here with the one and only Neil McCoy Ward. He's been a macro investing guy like myself on YouTube with 300,000 subscribers. But unlike me, he has a lot more experience in the market. So I'm just a young lad compared to him. He mentors hedge funds. He also has a lot of clients that he mentors as well. He's predicted many things like the inflation crisis that we're having right now, when many people were saying deflation. He's also predicted many things like the energy crisis in Europe right now, where we're seeing, gas prices going up 400% in the commodity markets. He's also predicted things like the Great Resignation, the Great Reset, and the stock market crash we're experiencing right now. So, Neil, if I haven't hit anything there, do you just want to quickly introduce yourself to my audience?
Oh, that's good. That was more than enough, Michael. Appreciate that that intro. Yeah, I'm just normal guy. That's the main thing about me. Normal guy, YouTube channel, and yeah, I just like to make videos. I enjoy doing it, making videos for people. So yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah, well, the reason why I wanted to get you on the channel this week, Neil, there's a lot going on in the markets right now. There's obviously a lot going on with the geopolitical situation right now. A lot going on with the banks, the Federal Reserve. So there's a lot of things I wanted to pick your brain, and also some things our audience can get from yourself to know what we should do during these hard times and during these highly volatile, uncertain times. So obviously there's been a lot of volatility in the markets this week, and something that just happened recently was the Russia-Ukraine crisis. So I thought I'd just ask you maybe what some of your thoughts on what's going on with Russia-Ukraine. Obviously, we're not geopolitical or military experts, but just how do you think this is going to affect the markets? And do you think that the worst is over, the markets are prices in, and we're now going to be going up from here? Because we did see a big recovery in the markets yesterday after they were down about 3.5%. The NASDAQ all of a sudden finished 3.5% higher.
Yeah.
Or do you think there's more pain to come?
Yeah, it's not really about the Russia-Ukraine crisis. When you're looking at these markets, you've got to look sort of macro. You've got to look at the real big picture here. Too many people focus on all the micro stuff happening day to day. I don't really look at that. I'm not interested in that, because to me, I'm not trading. I'm not going through trading every single day. So what I'm looking at is the finish line. It's like funny, yesterday, my wife and I were out for a hike, and she thinks she's really fit at the moment. So she was like powering off and, really going for it. And as soon as I saw this giant hill coming up, a rocky hill as well, I knew that she'd power up it and she'd burn out halfway, right? Ex-military, I used to carry 50-pound packs up hills like that over miles. So I just powered straight past her. And, we had a laugh and joke about it. It was on I recorded a video yesterday, because it is not about, the speed and the sort of micro things. It's about the long term, so I always look at, starts where I'm starting, where I'm finishing. And then everything that happens in between, I don't really care about any of that. Really what I'm looking to is to the finish point, and just pacing myself through that finish point. The same thing I say to all of my investors. And, when I'm mentoring on a Monday, people from my YouTube, they book mentoring, things like that. Or the big players that a lot of your viewers would know, who come, which is crazy. We were talking about this offline. Some of the people that come to me for guidance, you would not believe. It's absolutely insane. So Russia, Ukraine, I gave an example yesterday about this, a story, because again, guy who runs a hedge fund, he called me and he wanted to know whether this is just going to keep crashing. Is everything going to crash down? And he really wanted to know about NATO and the USA, if they were going to intervene militarily, because his theory was, and he won't mind me sharing this because I'm not going to name his name, but his theory was that militarily, all the weapons manufacturers in the USA, they will want the war. So they'll start jumping in and they'll start, doing all this stuff because it will explode shareholders, and maybe, the president's connected to them, and, all this sort of stuff. So what I did was I shared a story, which was from 1920, the League of Nations, which was, similar to the UN, United Nations today. So you got the League of Nations, and they were a cooperation, an alliance, as it were, of all these different countries. Some military powers, some had small militaries. And what happened was in 1920, Russia actually attacked what was then Persia. And Persia put out the alarm call. We need help. We need assistance. We're being attacked. League of Nations said, sorry, phone lines are not working. It's like that sort of situation. And they said, we're not going to assist. We're not going to help out with this. Russia doesn't notice our authority. They're not afraid of us. It's not going to make any difference. So all of these countries within the alliance, they say, oh, yeah, we'll come and help you. Don't worry if there's ever an attack. But then what happened was they all claimed neutrality. Oh, no, we're neutral. We're Switzerland. We don't get involved in any of this kind of thing. So what they do is they agree to these alliances when they want assistance from others, but they don't really want to give it themselves. So again, what I'm sharing with him is I don't see all these other countries getting involved militarily unless there's some sort of payoff for them. Now, that's not to say that they won't later on. So that's a possibility that it could actually extend and we could see military conflict later. But as of right now, we're talking, today, the next week, etc. You're not going to see them getting involved because Russia is a powerful, powerful nation. They hold nukes. They have a strong leader, which is the opposite of most Western nations. Right now, we have the weakest leaders possible. And I always give the example, when you are in, and this is just historically, when you're in really tough times, you need strong leaders. You need powerful leaders. You like what we would call strong men. People don't like that term anymore. It's politically incorrect, but that's what we need. We need strong men in times like this. And then in times of peace, we don't need those strong men. We don't need those ones that are like, come on, I'll give you a brawl in a bar. We don't need people like that. We need people who are more calm and relaxed and the sort of calmer politician who's there to make progress for the country. But right now we've got the opposite. We've had these weak people in the tough times, and then in the good times we've had some of the wrong leaders coming through.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's good insights to learn from history. I always say, we don't have a crystal ball. We can't predict the future, but the best thing to try to have an idea of what may happen in the future is to learn from history. And I think, I agree with what you're seeing there. They said they're not going to go in militarily. We're seeing more sanctions put on Russia, but it doesn't seem like it's deterred them much. They've become more self-reliant by having less and less debt, especially foreign debt.
Well, that's it, Michael. They don't care about the sanctions. I covered this this week actually on a video. They don't care about these sanctions. Who are they targeting? They're targeting, some of the finance and some of these people. They're not targeting the government really. Inadvertently they are, but they're not targeting the government. They're not really targeting Putin, things like that. Why are they not going after Putin? Why are they not specifically targeting him? They don't want to, you see, it's like a bluff, a lot of these sanctions. That's what they are. And Russia doesn't care anyway. The thing with Russia is all of this is helping them. If oil gets higher and higher and higher, it's helping them economically. They're holding 2,300 metric tons of gold. Again, what happens, I know you're probably going to ask me this question later because everyone always does, but what happens in tough times is people run to precious metals, gold and silver. Now, it doesn't always happen right away. As I've said, like the inflations of the 70s, people always say, oh, buy the gold and silver right now. No, not necessarily. Sometimes it can take years before you, and again, anyone can look at this on the charts, just correlate the inflation to the price rise of silver and gold. You look at that correlation, you see it's not usually instant. Sometimes it can take a few years before it actually kicks in, but it pretty much every time will kick in.
Good points there. And like I said, they've still got many sanctions that they could put on Russia. Like you said, they haven't put any on Putin. There's obviously a lot of debate about the SWIFT system right now, where they should cut them off from that. A lot of other countries are happy to, but obviously Europe doesn't want to, because then that's going to have bigger consequences on the global economy. And Germany is very reliant on Russia, and we've already seen, like you've been talking about, the huge energy crisis in Europe.
Yeah, which is going to get worse, by the way. The energy crisis is going to get worse, because you've got all, where does inflation comes from lots of different places. But if you think, and again, the economists don't talk about this. Why? I have no idea, because this is pretty obvious to me. But then again, I'm one of these people that thinks through an entire process. Even if you were to ask me a question that I haven't thought through on while we're talking today, I'll just let you know I haven't thought through the process yet. I don't like to just say things if I'm not clear on my thoughts. But I will sit there sometimes for 45 minutes, just sit there in a chair and think, and people laugh at this, but just think through these challenges. And if you think about inflation, this is why I had the brainwave. And of course, everyone's talking about it now, but I was talking about this way before where I thought through it. You think about where this inflation comes from. What's the starting point of everything? Energy. And I mean for everything. Animals, for human beings, for companies, governments. We all need energy. When you woke up this morning, just like what's one of the first things you do before lunch? You have your breakfast. You need that energy to get you going. Some people will have a coffee because they need that caffeine, type of energy. Now you look at anything. Let's look at the food supply. Well, what is causing these rises? Yes, a lot of it is government policies where they are doing some stuff that I don't agree with, which again happened in the 1920s, Great Depression, 1929, 1938 sort of period. We had a lot of stuff going on here, price controls, which may actually come next as well. But even food input, it's actually growing the food in the first place. It's all of those inputs. And again, for anyone that's like, what? Hold on, wait, isn't it just ground and sun? There's other things that are involved in growing food and then getting it to, processing. And this is oil, it's diesel, it's petrol. There's a lot of electricity, gas. All these things go into it. Then you've got to transport it. Oh, we haven't got the workers. Oh, the fuel's going up. Then you've got to get to the next place. Like everything is coming from energy. Energy is the beginning and the end of everything, basically.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. So do you think then, going back to the original part of the question, do you think we're going to see more pain in the markets with this specific scenario, Russia, Ukraine, or do you think it's priced in?
Well, I think it depends. I think it depends what happens. Now, you see, when you talk about the markets, I don't really think of it as one like big market or say the FTSE.
I should probably specify. I'm talking the S&P 500, the Nasdaq, probably to narrow it down.
Yeah, sure. Well, again, S&P and Nasdaq are completely different as well. Nasdaq. I haven't got anything in the Nasdaq. Put it that way.
Me neither. Yeah.
No, yeah. I don't think the Nasdaq is right. So when you have periods like this, so we've seen this big, these growth periods. You want to be in tech stocks. You want to be in growth stocks. You want to be in this stuff that grows, rapidly. But then when you go towards the tail end or the hockey stick, so I feel like we're on the hockey stick now, which is where all the crisis comes in. People need to run towards growth stocks. And again, this is not financial advice because I get these idiots, all the time. Oh, I'm going to sue you. You said this, and then I
sue me, bro.
That. Yeah, people say this all the time. You said this was going to go up, so I bought it, and it went down 10%. So I sold it and lost my money. Yeah, I said hold this stuff for a couple of years. It's not my issue if you sell it after 2 months. Anyway, this sort of stuff happens. But yeah, I feel like we're on this hockey stick now. So the transition is value stocks, good dividend paying value stocks. That is the cycle. So I don't understand why certain investors, and I've said certain people, Cathie Wood is a great example. I said from day one, I don't get it. I really don't get it. Why is she on all these shows as this top expert? And yes, she was doing very well, but I said this is the wrong call. Like these investments are not right. Going into these very high risk tech stocks and and then a lot of people jumping into things like Zoom and these are no, you don't jump into this stuff at the end. You jump into something like Zoom, or, at the start of the crisis, everyone's going locked down. Everyone's going to have to go online to meetings. That's when you jump into stuff like that. You don't jump into it at the end, or like Netflix at the end when we're coming out of the crisis. To me, this is just common sense, but a lot of experts that I don't get it. So is all of this built in? I can't really tell you right now because I'm not really looking micro and short term. I think long term. And long term, if this, keeps going, then you're going to see more pain in the markets for sure, especially the Nasdaq, especially. But S&P as well, I think you're going to see more pain, especially because we've seen this massive run up in the S&P. And I think over the long term, and again, I'm not saying this week, but I'm saying over the long term, I don't think it's going to perform as well as it has over the last 18 months, nowhere near.
Yeah, I agree. That's what my thoughts have been. But all my viewers already know my thoughts. So I want to get some of your thoughts on some other big issues that are going on right now. So obviously there's a big push right now with the central banks to create a central bank digital currency. I've seen you've covered this pretty extensively on your channel. And also what we've seen a lot of financial censorship. A lot of banks, if you say something wrong on Twitter or Facebook, they'll freeze your bank account. If you go to a certain protest, some are okay, but now some are illegal and they're freezing bank accounts. So what's your thoughts on central bank digital currency? And do you think this will create more financial censorship?
Yeah, well, that's an interesting question because Sunday, I've got a video coming out. I recommend everyone watch it. It's on my channel. This Sunday coming. Content. Yeah, this one is going to be one of the craziest videos you see on the banks and censorship and things like that. So yeah, I think everything going on with these CBDCs is very alarming. And I have a very different perspective on it from everyone else. I see it as a way to control people. I don't see this as this bright future that everyone else sees. I see this as a very dark future when everything can be controlled. Look at exactly what you said. Look at the people who criticize over the weekend. Look what's happened to them. Their bank accounts frozen. I'll talk about this on Sunday. One of my Patreons who actually had her accounts frozen. Some of the stuff going on, and I'm going to talk about my bank accounts as well that were frozen. I'm going to talk about that on Sunday. I've actually gone into the bank and done an undercover recording. So this will be interesting. Yeah, watch it on Sunday. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Fantastic. Looking forward to it. So do you think it's not good? It's going to lead to more financial censorship?
100%. Because even look at Canada, what they've just done, where they use the Emergencies Act to take greater control. And they basically gave the control to the financial institutions. Why would they do that? Because everything is wrapped around finance. If you control people's money, you control the people. It's really that simple. So of course, yeah, the Emergencies Act, okay, well, yeah, we don't need it anymore. But what have they left in place? They've left in place the things they used under the Emergencies Act. So whether or not they need it anymore or not is irrelevant. That they've already put it in place, and that's that. I mean, this is going to cause much greater censorship and control in the future. It's going to lead to other things like, people say, oh, the lockdowns are over. Yeah, these lockdowns are over. The next ones are going to be carbon lockdowns, net zero.
Yeah, seen that.
Yeah. This is where it's leading to. And the thing that people don't think through this stuff. I laugh about it and make the joke on my channel. People, the climate people get really angry with me for recommending log burners. One forest fire in California, it puts out more CO2 than all the log burners in the world, and stuff like that. People talk about carbon and all the other things. Mount Etna just erupted. You probably saw that on the news just over last week. Do you know how much CO2 that puts out? The CO2 emissions that puts out, it is insane. It's more than a country. It's like, anyway, this is what it's all connected to. It's connected. And I'm not one of these people that doesn't believe in climate change or anything like that, just for people getting upset right now. I can see them, they're sat at home watching this going, this Neil guy, he's a denier. No, I'm not a denier. Obviously the climate is changing. I don't deny that. Part of it is from human beings. It's not good. I'm one of these people that I like to recycle, and I don't like to cause, crazy amounts of carbon and things like that. But yeah, it's being hijacked. The whole thing is being hijacked for this agenda. It was Great Reset. I covered that, banned. It was Build Back Better, covered that, banned, and now it's gone on to this carbon net zero whole thing that they're pushing. And all the banks have got to get on board. If you don't get on board, you lose your financial license. Why? It's not a coincidence, all this stuff.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. And like what they normally say, don't let a good crisis go to waste. So obviously things like, COVID, it was real, wasn't denied with that. Climate change is obviously a real issue going on. But obviously all these, 3-letter organizations like to take advantage of that and use it to leverage to benefit their interests and gain more control and power over like what we've seen in the past couple of years. So that brings me to my next question, just to get your thoughts on something I think I've seen you do videos on before, and something that I'm kind of starting to see play out now is the fourth turning. So what is your thoughts on the fourth turning? Just again, quick rough summary. And do you think that is actually playing out right now?
100% is playing out. And all the people who go on the news and stuff like that and say, oh, no, this model from Howe and Strauss and all that, nonsense, doesn't apply. It's worked again, yet again. So you don't have to just look at fourth turning. You can look at any cyclical models. I've read probably 6 or 7 different books on cyclical models. They're all very similar. They all follow the same patterns. So you've got the fourth turning, which is the most obvious one. There are the book Generations. That was another one, talked about generations. But yeah, there's loads of books on this, and they're pretty accurate, all of them. So we're in this crisis period now, 2020 to 2025. And I've been talking about this for a long, long time. We're going to this crisis period. I didn't think when COVID happened that it was the crisis period. And I've said that from the start. I don't think that is the period. I think something comes afterwards. And again, people really didn't believe me when I said, I only think it will go on for 2 years. And after 2 years, the whole thing will just disappear. Another crisis will come along and everyone will just forget about COVID. Like, oh, it's done. It's gone. And all the masks disappear and there's no talk about vax and anything like that. I said this would happen after 2 years and then it'll be something else. Well, what have we just walked into? We've walked into 2 things, 2 major crises. We have Russia, Ukraine, and we have climate change. So these are the next 2 things. And of course, when everything's coming out now about COVID, all these things and all these studies and everything, is nowhere. I mean, I haven't seen COVID on the news for at least a week now. I've heard nothing. I haven't seen people wearing masks where I live in probably 2 weeks. I mean, I saw a couple of kids wearing some the other day, but that was about it, really. So we are moving into this new crisis phase, and then all the news will be focused around the new crisis and the old ones forgotten about. So I'm not going to get too much into my thoughts and theories about that, because people always, get upset by it, and they're outraged. They need to report you now, Michael, to YouTube for some of the things I say. But look, this is historical. I look at history. I build models based on the patterns of history. That is what I do. Whether or not it's politically correct is irrelevant. It is a model. It's like when people, get upset by some of the statistics and things I do. They're numbers. How can you be offended by numbers? Numbers carry no emotion. They just are. So this is it. So what we're going through, yes, is this next cycle, a very, very bad cycle. We haven't finished yet. I think it's going to be much, much worse. I think the next 2 to 3 years are going to be much, much worse. I don't even even trying to model what's going to happen is difficult because I don't know exactly myself. I just have theories. But after that, here's the good news. All right, everyone can celebrate now. Here's the good news. After that, we're going to see this beautiful period. It'll be like this new renaissance. It always happens every cycle. We're going to have this new renaissance period, just of the most incredible advancements coming along, a better standard of living. This new renaissance period is what we're going to go into.
Yeah, and just to clarify for people that don't know what the fourth turning is, just very quick summary. It's just really an 80-year cycle, a generation cycle, and really the last one started after World War II, and that's kind of like what you said. After World War II, we did see a better increase of living. We have seen this huge, I guess, long-term bull run since then. But now, unfortunately, we're facing the bad times. And there's a saying in that it says that good men make good times make weak men make hard times. So that's kind of saying then. But again, that might offend someone. I guess you could say men and women. Okay, so that's your thoughts on that. So I guess we've gone over these. So we'll go into now some of the more, I guess, technical things in the macro economy. A big thing right now, people talking about the Fed. So what's your thought about the Fed lifting interest rates? Do you think they're bluffing? A lot of people saying they're bluffing. They can't lift interest rates more than 1%. Otherwise, the government's going to default and it'll create this huge crash. Some people saying they need to lift interest rates up to 15% to get inflation down, like what they did during Paul Volcker. Mm-hmm. Now, obviously, the markets that have been pricing in Fed rate hikes, there was some speculation that there'll be a 0.5% rate hike in March. Now there's only like a 13% chance with all the issues that's going on now, with the stock market crashing and the Russia-Ukraine issue. So what's your thought on what's the Fed doing and are they bluffing?
Yeah, sure. Well, I mean, I don't know if they're bluffing, but what I can tell you is these small rate rises, huge mistake, because you're going to make inflation worse by doing small rate rises. What you need is big rises. Because if you do 0.5%, 0.25%, what's that going to do? Is going to have producers and manufacturers and retailers, they're going to pass that cost on to the consumer because it's a small cost. But if you put up, say, a 10% rise straight away, you're going to slow down inflation. You're going to just crush all the bad companies with bad debt who are just, they're skating on thin ice. They shouldn't really be in business anyway. You're going to just cripple all this bad debt is what you're going to do. And you're going to have a stronger economy. But they won't do that because, yes, it would bankrupt the government. They can't afford to do it. You see, this whole situation that's occurred anyway is because of the Federal Reserve and the central banks helping out their buddies at the government. So that's really how this has happened. Personally, I think they would need to do 10%, like a 10% rise, just to sort of slow down this inflation. Now, there is also an argument around deflation. And if you remember, I think you were one of my subscribers back in early 2020. Yes, if you remember that video I made, I said 2020 is deflation. So it's deflationary. And I explained all the reasons why it was deflationary. And then 2021 to 2022 and right through to, let's say, the end of 2022, high inflationary period. Now, when it got to 2023, I said maybe stagflation. But if you remember, I didn't really know 100%, but I'd say probably stagflation. You're going to see like a blend of inflation and deflation. Why? Because there's a lot of factors on the economy that are pulling us down into deflation or stagflation. And there always is. Now, part of this is tech. Technology is deflationary in nature. So that's one aspect of it. So it's technology, but it's also globalization. Globalization is deflationary in nature. So the more different countries open up and, we want to do factories and that's deflationary. The problem is energy. The energy input is the challenge right now. And that's pulling up the inflation. So we're having these forces act upon one another. And also remember, all the QE, quantitative easing that was done in the 2008 crisis, that wasn't inflationary. So of course you have people like Paul Krugman, Nobel Prize winning world-class economist, who says, this time it won't be inflationary. Completely wrong. All of these top experts were wrong at every opportunity because they were relying on the last time. And I always say to all of my subscribers, and I'll say it to all of you, your subscribers, Michael, don't rely on one set of models. You have to look at 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 models to really get a good range. And then once you've seen it, you can correlate. Is this time like 2008, or is it like the 1970s, or is it like the 1929 Great Depression? See, that's what you got to do.
Yeah, that's some good insights. And yeah, I agree that that'll be a good thing to do to try to get ahead of the curve, is lift interest rates now rather than wait, because they're already behind the curve. I was talking about early 2021, mid 2021, that they need to start lifting interest rates now. It's going to get worse. And People all believing drone power, it's transitory. And obviously that didn't age well. So I do agree that's what they need to do. And like you said, if inflation, or should I say CPI, and that doesn't capture real inflation, is 7.5%, what's a 1% interest rate hike going to do? That's still in real terms negative rates. So it's still very stimulative. And like you said, with printing money through 2008, it wasn't inflationary, where now we're seeing huge inflation also because this time they did government stimulus as well, not just the Federal Reserve printing money. So I guess we've covered most things, what's going on in the macro economy now, the crises that are going right now. So there's all the problems, but of course people want solutions or how to protect themselves. So what are you telling your investors to do now to try to hedge against these crises, maybe protect their wealth or even build wealth during these hard times?
Yeah, okay. I mean, I can give you just a few bits, because obviously I have a Patreon and I have, private mentoring. So I charge for, the very specific detailed stuff, but I don't mind sharing a few basic things. So you notice whenever I'm doing my live stream stuff, I always have certain things on my desk. What do I have? I have cash, right? So I have US dollars on my desk. What do I also have? Oh, I have this. What is that? Well, that's what that becomes. Yeah, this is worthless. It's just trash. And it doesn't matter what currency you use, whether it's, British pounds or it's euros or, whatever it is. This is trash. This is absolute garbage. It's just a fiat currency. I won't go into it all. Your viewers will know. Always goes to zero every single time. Loses purchasing power. If you go back if you go back 70 years, this $100 here was worth, well, in today's money, right? So if you took this $100 bill in, say, 1952, today it's only worth $9 purchasing power. Mm-hmm. So you lose 91% of your purchasing power, and that's basically how the government skims off the top, and it's this level of theft that they keep doing. So how do you protect yourself? We talked about moving from growth and tech to value, dividend paying value, moving away from, say, the US dollar, especially at this time. It's just moving away from it. Although the dollar strengthens at the same time as other countries, because other countries need, and this is one thing people don't understand about QE, other countries need this stuff to go into their central bank. They need it to bolster up their currency. So this is something people never realize. So they say, oh, QE, it's just, trillions and trillions of money printing for no reason. Well, there has to be a demand for it. It has to go somewhere. Now, what else do I recommend? I recommend this stuff, silver, physical silver. Everyone should have it. And if you can't afford a lot of it, buy this stuff. Just buy yourself some rounds, really, really simple. These are not expensive. Anyone can afford to buy something like this. Not expensive at all. Now, if you have a lot more cash and you're in some of the countries that are causing issues at the moment, like Canada, get this stuff, get gold. You can really concentrate your wealth in just a small place like this, like gold. But yes, silver. Now, the reason I like silver, and again, people say, oh, here he goes with his conspiracy theories now. The reason I like silver is because I like to hedge against anything. And you've probably heard my stories about when I was in the military in different countries, and I saw massive just social unrest collapses. I won't even go into some of the nasty stuff, but then you see grocery stores get raided. There's no more supplies coming in for weeks sometimes. Guess what people do? They trade. So for me, and this is the joke about the conspiracy, I have this stuff just because if there ever was a collapse in this country or, whatever other country, I know this stuff has got value. I could trade that for a load of food. People would want it, and so that's one thing I would say. But also, not just that, even though I think this is trash, I would still have it. I wouldn't have all of my cash in the bank. As you've seen what's happened in Canada at the moment, people's accounts frozen. I wouldn't just have all my cash in the bank. I would have cash at home. I'd have metals. I would have valuable things at home that people probably wouldn't know are valuable, but I can trade them if I want to. All sorts of things, from long life food to these are the basics you've got to get first. Once you've got all these basics done, then you can look at investing. So really the guidance I'm giving here is for anyone that watches your channel, whether they are rich or poor, it doesn't make any difference. Start with the basics, a little bit of, food, long life food, move into some of the things that you can trade, have some silver. If you're a lot wealthier, have gold, have some cash. And if you're in the markets, then look at, I would say, value stocks now.
All right, fantastic. Good advice there. And yeah, that's something I've always thought is a good idea. I think gold and silver investors, if they think there is going to be, a full-on collapse like what we're seeing in Ukraine right now, you made a good point there. You also want things like food and stuff, because if I've only got one loaf of bread and you offer me an ounce of gold, I'm not going to give you my last loaf of bread. So yeah, you need to get those basic essentials as well. What about Bitcoin? Do you think it's a good time to get into Bitcoin right now? Bitcoin will protect us?
I don't want to give any financial advice here around crypto. All I can say is that I have exposure to crypto. So I have about 20% of my portfolio in cryptocurrency, but I don't own any altcoins, I'm going to call them. You call them something different. I don't really own many altcoins. So I have your Bitcoin, I have Ethereum and the polka dots and chain links, and I have the strong projects. And again, I bought these cheap. I'm just holding them. I was going to say hodling now. I'm holding them through. I'm staking them. So
diamond hands.
Yeah, diamond hands. Anywhere from 7% return on all from my Bitcoin to everything else, right through to 18% on some of them. In fact, more than that on some of them. So I do hold it. I do own it. I think it is the future for certain things. And again, people probably have been watching this whole interview and they're like, Neil, I really liked everything you said. Now you've done it with this last question. I don't like this, but I always hedge. So I think that cryptocurrency has a future, and I don't look at it as, it has value, because it's an intangible asset. So it doesn't have value in that respect. But it's the technology behind it that I can see replacing other technologies. That's where I see the value. And so the people say there's no value in crypto. Well, you could say there's no value in the internet because you can't touch it. There's no value in Wi-Fi. Of course, there's value. The value is in the technology. So I invest into things where I can see the value is in the technology. So that's really the best way I think I can answer it, Michael. I'm not going to give any guidance on whether people should buy right now. I think it's everyone's own decision, but it is very cheap right now. So if I didn't have any exposure, personally, not saying you, but I would get some. I'd get some exposure, but you've got to know what you're doing. You've got to know which projects to buy and which not to buy, because the 99.9% of them will probably go to zero in the next 50 years, for example. I'm giving a long time scale there. But they'll probably go to zero. Then you're going to have some of these projects, they'll merge, someone will buy out other ones, people go onto new platforms. It'll always be evolving. So yeah, that's my answer to it.
Good point there. And I think like some people said that no value, can't touch and see it, but we are seeing, even though I've been negative on the price, I think the price could go down. That doesn't mean I don't like the technology. Like you said, we're seeing people in Canada use it. When they're getting, financial censorship. We're seeing in Ukraine right now, there's limits on how much cash you can take out of the bank. So they're using crypto. So I think it does have some utility there. But I think that pretty much wraps it up, Neil. Again, thank you for coming on the channel. Thank you for your thoughts. So for my viewers wanting to find you, how can they find you?
I've got a YouTube channel. If you just put it as a pinned comment below and put it in the description as well, in my channel, that's it. You can put my Patreon as well. Some people probably want to join the Patreon, so I'll give you those two links. We can just put them below, and then people can just click through and subscribe.
All right, fantastic. Well, thanks for watching, everyone. Thanks for coming to the channel, Neil, and I'll see you all in the next video.
All right, take care. Bye.